So we got 8 minutes on the clock for Bug's intro or his opening statements, and just tell me when you're ready to start.
I'm ready now.
All right, go.
So, when it comes to God and the argument of God, if God exists necessarily, run my own argument. Um, I would affirm that if God existed, he would have to exist by necessity um, for a couple reasons. Firstly, if God did not exist by necessity, then I would affirm that that would be lead into an infinite regress with PSR, where you would need a sufficient reasoning as to what grounds God and so on and so forth, which would eventually lead into a violation of the law of non-contradiction. Um, so I would say it would be a logical impossibility to say that God existed, but he was not necessary, i.e., necessary being someone who is self-explanatory, their essence is existence. I When it comes to arguing for God's existence, my argument that I run is what I just call it the bug loves all argument. My first premise is that things in the universe are in motion. Premise two is if something is in motion, then it must be put in motion by another since it cannot move itself. The conclusion one there is things in the universe must have been put into motion by another. This lays off our groundwork. It's based upon the argument of motion, a motion being defined as the move from a state of potential to actual. My premise three is if there is a per se causal chain of movers and it cannot regress infinitely, then there must be a first mover that isn't moved by anything else. Conclusion two is therefore there must be a first mover that isn't moved by anything else. Premise four is whatever is not moved by another must have no potentiality. Conclusion three is is therefore the first mover is pure act. So right there, I've established essentially that there is a first mover that is pure act. Now, as for um, why he would have to be necessary off of that, if he was not necessary, i.e., he was contingent or could cease to exist, it would lead into a per se causal chain that's an infinite regress. Now, I would say that this is a possibility because it would be a violation of the principle of sufficient reasoning. That being that there's a sufficient reasoning for why everything exists. Um, the reason this would be a violation of PSR is because you would essentially be saying that there's a previous explanation, this grounds it, but then this thing also needs a previous explanation and so on infinitely. So even though there is just this infinite regress of these infinite explanations, ultimately nothing's grounded and it becomes completely arbitrary. Because of that, I would affirm that there would need to be a necessary grounding or an endpoint to in order to avoid this infinite regress. Now, as to many people would just end up denying PSR, saying that I think this is the most common response to this sort of claim. But the denial of PSR leads into a violation of the law of non-contradiction. Because if you're denying PSR, you're essentially saying that brute facts can exist. Things can exist without reason. So it would be a violation of law of non-contradiction when it comes to rational grounding. You would be saying that things do exist without a grounding, and then not things do not exist without a rational ground or without a grounding. So there would be no in terms of rational grounding, there's no distinction between things that do exist and do not exist, which would be a formal violation of the law of non-contradiction. Because of this, you would have to affirm PSR. Now, some people will go even further as to say that the law of non-contradiction itself could be violated, but the law of non-contradiction is what we call a self-evident truth. To deny it is to affirm it. It's what we call a performative contradiction. If someone were to make the claim that the law of non-contradiction is false, it would require it to be true in that statement for there to be a distinction between the words true and false. Otherwise, it's simultaneously an affirmation that you believe it is not false, while also being an affirmation that you believe it is false. And if you continue on with that, it leads into an epistemic collapse where all rational thought and discourse is impossible, communication is impossible, because there is no distinction between words. Words can all be contradictory. That's my opening statement. That's all I got.
All right. That was 3 minutes left on the timer. You sure you don't want to put anything else out there?
I mean, I don't really got anything else to say. I was trying to milk that timer as much as I could.
All right. Well, that's a good opening from our theists, and now we go to our atheists, Breakfast Tacos, for the negative. Just tell me when you're ready, Tacos.
Ready when you are.
All right, and start.
In today's debate is over the topic, does God exist necessarily? This topic is an easy one to address. Most people argue from some sort of chain of explanations that terminates in a necessary being, and then they call the necessary being God. This would be the metaphysical grounding claim that they're making. I absolutely agree that the chain of explanations terminates in a necessary being. I obviously claim a different necessary being, but my claim doesn't even have to be presented to defeat my opponent's position. Keep in mind, my opponent is an Orthodox Christian, so if he argues for anything but the Orthodox Christian God, he will be conceding the debate as he has the burden of proof. If he is going to aim at providing a sound deductive syllogism, he also has to provide to those who don't accept his premises justification to accept those premises. However, I will still provide argumentation from my side. A necessary being is defined as a state of existence which has to exist in all possible worlds. This is just saying that it exists necessarily or cannot fail to exist. There is no requirement for this to be the Thomistic actus purus or anything else that my opponent might claim tonight. If my opponent claims a necessary being candidate with a mind or a triune nature or anything of that tonight, you will know his necessary being candidate claim cannot exist. A necessary being could exist without a mind. A necessary being could exist without a triune nature. Both of these claims would cash out the necessary being as impossible because he would be faced with the problem of redundancy in that it is superfluous and unnecessary, as there are better necessary being candidate claims with no mind, no personal nature, no triune nature that are much more simple. There is also the principle of parsimony, which ends up cashing out his necessary being claim once again in redundancy when compared to other claims. The biggest issue that I see is that, as the Highlander says, there can only be one. Metaphysics suggests that if a necessary being exists, there can only be one, not multiple. He has to claim my necessary being, the initial state in any actually possible world, because the initial state grants a structure to reality, granting all possibilities. We cannot conceive of anything at all without this necessary state. Even if he claims a God, forcing him to adopt two necessary being claims, then he falls back into parsimony and redundancy issues that anyone of sound mind would use to dismiss his claim as nonsense. My opponent's metaphysical position also claims a necessary being, or my opponent's metaphysical position also claims that a necessary being cannot be contingent. Both minds and a trinity are contingent and unnecessary, as one could imagine a necessary being with no mind or no triune nature, granting existence to everything, even if we grant most of his argument. You have all probably heard me present present the reverse modal ontological argument numerous times. Necessarily, if God exists, God necessarily exists, which he affirmed. Possibly God doesn't exist, therefore God doesn't exist. What this argument is saying in premise one is that in all possible worlds, if God exists, it exists in all possible worlds. This means that if God exists, there are no possible worlds where it does not exist, and that there are no other options for the metaphysical grounding of the God claim. They cannot claim infinite regress or brute fact when they claim a necessary being. Premise two is interesting because a necessary being has to exist in all possible worlds, which means what this means is that if you can conceive of a world where the God doesn't exist, the God can't be a necessary being because a necessary being has to exist in all possible worlds. This leads to the conclusion, therefore God doesn't exist. This argument is interesting because it wins out with symmetry breakers versus a standard modal ontological argument as it works in weaker logics. Oftentimes, you will see theists end up denying conceivability equals logical possibility when faced with this argument. This is a grave error for the position because it's going to lock them into nomological modality or what's actually possible within the physical laws. If that position does end up getting taken tonight, I can simply say that sentience and or a mind can only exist with the brain. God seems to be the sort of thing that is only restricted by logic, and so there is going to have to be lots of possible worlds on the table if that's the case. My metaphysics of modality is where the proposition necessarily God has exactly two components: a referent for the word God and the modal operator necessity on that referent. The modal operator of necessity can be defined as not possibly not, or with possible world semantics in all possible worlds. We must articulate the modal scope of this operator. I think of possible worlds as only those worlds contiguous with the actual world. That is to say, only those worlds that share some history with the actual world are possible. Under this view, there is at least one necessary being, the initial state or boundary conditions of the actual world that is shared between all possible worlds. The initial state, which I call the universal quantum field and others may call the universal wave function, is simply the fundamental state which grounds being. Is all the stuff, is physical, and all possibilities derive from it. I accept quantum field theory, Big Bang cosmology, rapid inflation, and the consensus of modern physics and quantum physics. Possible worlds are cashed out in terms of so-called chancy or indeterminate events, plausibly in virtue of quantum indeterminacy or some other chancy phenomena, right? If you want to define this initial state as God, then I would concede that necessarily God. However, there are no good reasons to believe that this initial state has a mind and good reasons to suspect that it doesn't. So here's a quick inductive argument. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains, therefore all minds occur in virtue of brains. This syllogism is strong and cogent. Updating on the presumed truth of the premises increases the probability of the hypothesis and the conclusion, and the premise is true. The number of observed minds is statistically compelling with billions of instances. The premise is also falsifiable. My interlocutor only needs to provide a single disembodied mind. In tonight's debate, I expect to see my opponent fail to provide a contradiction in a world without God. If he cannot provide a contradiction in a world without God, simply from logical possibility, his necessary being position is self-defeating. If he claims that conceivability is not logical possibility, his position is self-defeating. This could also go a few different ways depending on some of his responses. I would also like to request my opponent to provide biblical verses that claim the Christian God is a necessary being during this debate for my own knowledge. I'm looking forward to seeing how this discussion progresses and to welcoming a new brother in atheism. That's all I got.
All right. 1 minute left. Nothing else, huh? Okay, well, that's a good, excellent opening for tacos. I look forward to the open discussion. But before we get into that, I just want to remind the chat that we have $2 super chats, gets your message displayed on screen, and $5 gets a question to either of the debaters. At the end of the 1 hour, we're going to add up the total of all the super chats and add that to the time. So I'm putting an hour on the clock. Are you gentlemen ready for the open discussion portion?
I'm ready when you are.
All right. Bug, good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, go ahead.
I did have a quick question. So you
Sure.
do affirm a necessary being, but that
Correct.
it's not conscious.
Correct.
Okay. So that, and do you affirm that it's pure act?
I don't think that's relevant at all. That's not a requirement for a necessary being. The only requirement for a necessary being is that it exists in all possible worlds or cannot fail to exist. It would be grounding all that is.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
that like
metaphysical grounding claim.
would you affirm it's like self-explanatory too?
Yeah, I mean it's a necessary being. It has to exist by its own nature in that it has to exist in all possible worlds. That's the explanation for its existence, right? That it exists in all possible worlds. Asking for further explanation is incoherent. Maybe not incoherent, but it's pointless.
Perfect. So do you affirm that this necessary being that you believe in has potentiality?
I don't care about actual and potential. What do you mean by actual? What do you mean by potential here?
Potential I define as something having the capacity to become something else, but is not yet that thing.
So I think the issue that we're going to encounter is that you have a bunch of Thomistic metaphysics for your God claim, and the philosophical necessary being claim is simply that it's a state of existence that has to exist in all possible worlds. And you're going to try to apply a bunch of additional metaphysical baggage to that I'm not going to accept. And so I don't think talking about act and potential is worth either of our time here. That has nothing to do with the necessary being claim. The question is, does God exist necessarily? And so your burden of proof here is to demonstrate that God exists in all, the Christian God specifically exists in all possible worlds or cannot fail to exist.
Yeah. So you do affirm that there is a necessary being.
Yeah, the universal quantum field. And I did look at your argument, and I don't think we would even get past premise 2 in your argument. If something is in motion, then it must be put in motion by another, since it can't move itself. So with premise 2, it's basically saying that something cannot be the cause of itself. This is saying that something outside of the system has to act upon the system, and that seems to be total nonsense. I would need a good reason to accept that premise supported by scientific evidence rather than just philosophical claims, as would the audience. The initial state I'm sorry, I can't speak. The initial state would be necessary and could not be acted on by another or begin to exist. It doesn't require potential to be actualized. It could just be changing itself, as the science suggests, right? Causes don't produce effects. Causes change into effects. The initial state itself is uncaused, right? It's a necessary being, and it exists in all possible worlds and cannot fail to exist.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, I'm stuck on premise 2 on your argument.
yeah, I mean, we could go that route if you want. If you want, like, me to go through that, I'm down. Like, do you want me to?
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see some type of scientific evidence that shows that anything could come into existence.
What do you mean anything could come into existence? What? My premise 2 is if something is in motion, then it must be put in motion by another, since it can't move itself.
Okay. So then it could just exist by itself.
No, not be put in motion or move by itself. That being...
Yeah, so it could just exist by itself, since you're just talking about motion.
It could exist, like, for example, God can exist by itself, or a necessary being exist by itself.
But the initial state could just exist by itself, by what you just said.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah, so the initial state could just exist by itself from what you just said.
The initial space? Like, the premise itself isn't saying that something can't exist by itself. It's just saying something can't move from a state of potential to actual by itself.
Oh, I don't care about the actual and potential stuff. Okay. That's theology. That's outdated, dude.
So then you would then affirm premise 2?
No, premise 2 is saying if something is motion, then it must be put in motion by another, since it can't move itself.
Yes.
You're saying that something can act from outside of the stuff on the universe, which is quite literally the set of all things. So you're saying that the set of all things can be acted on by another. The other issue I would see with this, if in your view this doesn't mean that it needs to be not just put into motion, but it doesn't begin to exist, if it can always just exist, not only could it exist by its own nature, you claiming a necessary being that doesn't create the stuff and the stuff exists alongside it would defeat your necessary being claim. As I said in my intro, as the Highlander says, there can only be one. I was very clear about that.
Okay. Yeah. So with that, then the disagreement you're arising with premise 2 isn't an actual disagreement with premise 2, because when I said motion, I'm saying that something can't move from a state of potential to actual by itself. You said you didn't care about that.
Well, I said very clearly that the stuff can act on itself.
Yeah. Well, I would say that to say that would be a violation of the law of non-contradiction, because so.
What's the P and not P?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So in order for motion to occur, right, you're moving. It's a move from a state of potential. Potential being defined as something having the capacity to become something else, but it's not yet that thing. Actual being defined as already being that.
I don't care about potential and actual. That's outdated metaphysics.
You asked me what I'm explaining to you. Actually is defined as being the state you had the potential to become. So the P and not P would be P, you are already that thing or state. Not P, you aren't already that thing or state.
That's just outdated metaphysics. So the science suggests that it can act on itself. Your metaphysics that you're claiming contradicts reality. So you're doing like an external critique from your position with outdated metaphysics on the actual scientific understanding of the stuff.
So you would affirm that that L and C could be violated there.
What's L and C?
The law of non-contradiction.
It's not a violation of. So first off, I think you're misunderstanding what the laws of logic are. And second off, as I just said, the science suggests that the stuff can act on itself.
Okay. Well, I just
Do
showed
you reject
a
the
P
scientific understanding? So do you
Yes, I
reject
do,
quantum theory?
because it violates the law of non-contradiction. I just gave you a valid P and not P there too.
Oh man. Okay, so you reject the law of non-contradiction, or you
No, I
reject
affirm the law of non-contradiction.
you reject the. I'm sorry, I can't speak today. So you reject. Sorry, I don't do these debates very often one-on-one. So
You're good.
you're rejecting the quantum field theory and the general scientific understanding of the universe right now. I do have to point out that makes you look like a flat earther. But where do you want to go from that?
Yeah, well, I would affirm that even if it appears to be that case, I would say that the law of non-contradictions are true and cannot be violated. So there can't be contradiction. So even if there is an apparent contradiction, I would say that it's not actually a contradiction.
So we have trees in the universe, right? And trees require a very specific set of circumstances to arise, right? And it takes a long time with very specific circumstances. For my own knowledge, just so that I can know your position isn't totally incoherent, can you provide an explanation and doesn't completely contradict real life? Can you please provide an explanation of trees from the necessary being until today? And I could do the same thing after if you'd like me to. Yeah, trees.
What is freeze?
Trees, Trees. When you go outside and there's like a brown, usually pretty big thing that like juts up like 20 plus feet in the air most of the time, and it's got these like green things growing off of the brown juts that are coming out of it.
You said FREE?
No, trees.
Tree.
Tree. Oh, sorry, I didn't know what you're saying. You want me to explain how a tree comes about, starting from the necessary being all the way till now?
Yeah, I'd like to see that or hear
Why,
that.
like, A, in how much detail? B, why is that
maximum detail? Because from my view, trees are only possible in the atheist presuppositional apologetics worldview. And you're telling me that the understanding that we have about the fundamental aspects of reality is nonsense because you think that the law of non-contradiction applies at the quantum scale and isn't just a system that part of the system that the laws of a system that we've created. In fact, you're not even doing like a real contradiction. You're just doing some type of like external critique from an outdated theological metaphysic position. And so I want to know what your explanation of trees is. This is for myself and the audience, and it's directly related to the topic.
Yeah,
because as I said, trees are only possible in the atheist presuppositional apologist worldview. And if my worldview is true, your God can't exist necessarily. And so I'd like to see if you can provide a explanation for trees from the initial state.
Yeah. With your necessary being, you do affirm like PPC, right? Because like if you do, then it's just going to be derived the same exact way as mine from my worldview.
Okay, provide the explanation.
So do you affirm that with your
I'm not answering any questions until you provide the explanation.
Well,
I answered six questions in a row. Listen, I answered like 6 questions in a row. I'm asking a trees question. I asked one question about the argument for motion, and then you started asking questions. I want to have an explanation for trees so that myself and the audience can see if you have a coherent
position. It derives or as an effect eminently from the cause, that being from the necessary being.
No, I'm asking for an explanation step by step. That doesn't answer the question. So I asked for an explanation step by step from the initial state to today, very much in depth.
And if I can't provide a step by step of every single thing that went into that, then what?
That's for the audience and myself to decide, right?
Well, I just think it's irrational. Like if I'm unable to provide you, I think it's an epistemic limitation.
It's not that hard. I could provide an explanation of trees right now. I'll provide an explanation of trees right after you do.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that your worldview is correct and mine's false. And likewise, if I can't give you an individual set for every single step that goes from the necessary being till trees, that doesn't
This
mean
is a paradigm level debate, sir. This is the atheist presuppositional apologist worldview versus the orthodox Christian worldview. And part of this debate is me figuring out if your God exists necessarily and you understanding that it doesn't. So we are going to address this tree question directly. And you, sir, are going to provide an explanation of trees from the initial state so that everybody here knows that your necessary being does not exist.
How does that show that my necessary being doesn't exist? If I can't
because trees
explain
are
to
only
you every
possible in the
single
atheist
individual step.
presuppositional apologetics worldview.
Can you tell me how, if I can't provide every single individual step that goes from necessary being till trees being created, that therefore my God doesn't exist by necessity?
I just want to see if you have a coherent explanation for trees in your worldview.
Yeah, the level of detail I'll go into is that the effect, that being trees, is created eminently from the cause. That being the first mover, the necessary being.
All right. So, audience members, obviously this is for you to decide, but I'll provide an explanation of trees now. So we have the initial state, which I call the universal quantum field, which is all this stuff. There's quantum fluctuation that causes this stuff to rapidly inflate. There's some steps in between, but ultimately we get to rapid inflation. Rapid inflation occurs, this stuff expands. Oh, and cool. Well, BS, you want to read that, and then I'll continue,
Sorry,
and then we can
I missed
get to that.
Thank you, Cody H, for the super chat. He says he wants an explanation for the trees from him now too.
Cool. I'll go through with mine, and then he can try again. So the stuff expands or inflates. Expand might not be the right word there, but it inflates and it starts to cool, and then bonds can form, and then we get atoms, and we get stuff starting to coalesce. And then there's space ping pong. You get stars forming, exploding, and then all this space ping pong and stuff occurs for a really long time. And then you zoom into Earth like 4.6 billion years ago, and the Earth is cooling. And fast forward more in time, the atmosphere is changing. And then like 3.7 billion years ago, abiogenesis occurs. Might be a little bit off on that time frame, but I think it's 3.7 billion years. And then the cells divide and reproduce, and then they change over time with evolution. And then eventually we get to a point where this life is moving to land, both plant life and animal life. And then we have mushrooms that start to form on the land. There's mushrooms breaking down the rocks and whatnot, releasing the micronutrients like iron and all that for the trees and everything else, right? And the animals are dying. They're eating these mushrooms and each other and stuff, and they're dying, and they're breaking down into the what will be the soil. And this occurs for billions of years. I don't know the exact time frame trees arrive, but a very long time until at some point the plant life on land evolves into trees, where the trees begin to emerge. During this time, the atmosphere is changing with the life. The life that's on the planet is stabilizing the atmosphere and altering the atmosphere, and the life is evolving with the atmosphere. But yeah, and then we get to trees, right? And so that is my explanation for trees. And BS, you want to handle the super chat?
Is there another one?
No. He was asking for.
Bugs, if you have, now that you've heard Taco's explanation for how trees formed from the quantum, maybe that gives you a better explanation of what he's looking for.
Yeah, I'm curious, how is this relevant to the topic of does God exist by necessity?
Because if you don't have an explanation for trees in your worldview, your God can't exist. You'd just be borrowing from my worldview and calling the necessary being God.
If so, like,
Doesn't matter
I
though with
couldn't
the super
explain to you
chats, right?
every single individual process that
You
went
still have
into
to
it.
answer the
Like, if
super
I didn't
chat, sir.
know,
Yeah, it
that's-
doesn't matter
would
with the
that be
super
my
chats. The
worldview
super
fault?
chats control the conversation. Money speaks, right?
Yes, my explanation was that the cause, that being the necessary being, eminently produces the effect, that being trees.
Could you give us more detail like Tacos did? I think that's what Cody's looking
I mean,
for.
that's the level of detail I got for y'all.
A cause equals an effect.
I mean, ultimately, it would be the same thing within Breakfast Tacos worldview. That would be true. Like the idea that the cause eminently creates the effect, that being trees.
Okay, I don't think we're getting anywhere on this. Let's bring it back to the necessary being topic.
Yeah. So your argument fails at premise 2.
Okay, how does it fail at premise 2?
I've already covered that.
Yeah.
The stuff can be self-interacting.
Yes, but so by self-interacting, you mean something moving itself from a state of potential to actual.
I don't care about that terminology. That's outdated.
Well, that's what the premise 2 is talking about. So if you're quoting premise 2 and saying that it's false,
then I would just have to reject premise 2.
What,
I just outright reject premise 2, and there's no further
because of what?
discussion
because you
on the
don't
argument.
care about talking about that?
No, I don't care about the outdated metaphysics you're using there. The stuff can interact with itself as the science suggests. You're literally rejecting the science when you push premise 2.
So your reason
if premise
for
2 is
premise
false
2 is because you don't
and
care about
not
it?
true, the rest of the argument will not follow. Your first conclusion won't follow. Your second conclusion won't follow. Your third conclusion won't follow. Your fourth conclusion won't follow. Your fifth conclusion won't follow.
Yeah, can you logically show how premise 2 is false?
I just told you how it's not true. The stuff can interact with itself.
Yeah,
and it can be
by
self-existent.
Interacting with itself, do you mean move itself from a state of potential to action?
I don't care about the outdated
Well,
terminology
that's what the thing
at
is
all.
saying,
I'm
so-
not using Aquinas terminology. I don't care about Aquinas terminology. It's outdated metaphysics. The science shows that the stuff can interact with itself and it can self-exist.
By interact with yourself, do you mean that? Because if you don't, then it's not a refutation of premise 2. If you do, then
the
it is
initial state
refutation
would
of
be
premise 2.
analogous to it would be like a naturalistic analog to actus purus, but I don't care about actus purus or act or potential. None of that matters for this. This is outdated metaphysics.
So do you believe
The
those
fact of the
concepts
matter
aren't
is
true?
that you're claiming a necessary being, and a necessary being has to exist in all possible worlds. So I'll give you a quick example of
Excuse me, before you get into that, we got a $5 question from Cody. How is this necessary being tied into a Christian God specifically? How can you accept Taco's science explanation to explain your necessary being? I think that's for Buzz.
We affirm within Christianity that God is a necessary being. So debating on whether a necessary being exists or not would tie into Christianity in that sense. B, how can you accept Taco's science explanation to explain your necessary being? Like, how? I mean, I can affirm that because it doesn't debunk my position. Like,
okay.
if I say
it's just borrowing from my worldview. That's funny.
And then another $5 super chat from Cody saying you can't use science when the Bible claims the earth is 6,000 years old. That's a good point. Thank you for the super chats, Cody.
So do you want to address that, or do you want me to?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking the moderator. Yeah. I don't affirm that the Bible teaches that the earth is 6,000 years old. That derives from trying to take a literal interpretation and tracing of the genealogies, which I would affirm as is common practice within that time period, that the genealogies weren't actually literally every single person, but were very summarized in order to push a point. But that's a completely different topic than whether or not God is necessary. Now, I
kind of tied. Do you accept evolution and abiogenesis?
I mean, I can grant evolution.
But
Like
you
I
can't
can
grant
grant
quantum field
evolution to
theory?
an extent. Like I believe that evolution exists in the sense of natural selection and those types of things. I believe like God, God had some aspect, as Genesis tells us, on the creation of humans and Adam and Eve. But I could just accept evolution for
So,
like,
but you don't accept quantum field theory.
well, what are you positing quantum field theory as? Like, are you saying that
Quantum
the
fields are
field is a necessary?
fundamental. The stuff traces back to initial state.
Yeah. So, are you saying is that the theory that talks about quantum fields being a necessary being?
No. This is my metaphysical claim about the initial state.
Yeah, well, I don't see how that's relevant to whether God exists by necessity or not.
Oh, I'm just asking if you accept it or you reject it.
Well, it's irrelevant to the topic. So
I'll tie it in. I just want to hear your answer.
well, I don't know enough about quantum field theory to give you my opinion on whether I accept or reject it.
So, if God is a necessary being, is there a world in which there can be an initial state that's a necessary being?
An initial state, what?
Is there a possible world in which, a logically possible world in which an initial state can be a necessary being?
What are you defining an initial state as?
A not God.
Not, so is there a possible world where God does not exist?
Correct.
No, I wouldn't.
What's a
affirm
contradiction?
That's a contradiction.
What's a contradiction?
A contradiction is when a preposition is both true
What's
and
the
false.
contradiction in God not
I said
existing and the world existing?
Yes. So I would affirm that I would define God as the necessary being in which
No. So
existence comes
necessary
from.
being is
Yeah.
something. It's a state of existence that exists in all possible worlds or cannot
Yes.
fail to exist. Right. So
Uh-huh.
God is a necessary being candidate that you're claiming. Right. So what's the contradiction in a different necessary being candidate?
Well, yeah. So I affirm that when we talk about God, I'm defining God as a necessary being that's the source of all existence. Who?
But necessary being, you're just taking God and saying that it's the same thing as necessary being, but those are two different terms with two different.
No, I'm not. It's not just the same thing as a
Like
necessary being.
does your God have a triune
Yeah.
nature or a mind or anything like that?
I would affirm that the necessary being. You also affirm that there's necessary being. I would affirm that whatever
No, I'm
necessary
asking
being
the
that
term
is, that it would
God
have
that
to
you're
be
using.
conscious.
I'm not asking about necessary being. I'm asking the term God that you're using. Does the term God that you're using, does that include in its definition triune nature or anything
It
like
would
that?
include being fully actualized and conscious.
Okay, so you're claiming that this is a necessary being. So what is the contradiction in a not God necessary being? Or even infinite regress or brute fact? Because those actually don't get canceled out like you think they do.
You're asking what's the contradiction in there being a necessary being that isn't conscious and isn't fully actualized?
I don't care about actualized. I'm asking.
Well, that's what I was defining God as. So that's what I'm trying to clarify your question.
I'm asking, what's the contradiction in something that has no mind, that exists, and grounds everything that exists?
Yeah. Well, the contradiction would derive from that being a violation of the principle of proportionate causality, which states that everything essentially, if there's a cause, if there's an effect, that effect must exist in the cause either formally, virtually, or eminently. Formally meaning like actually possessing it. Let's say, for example, materiality. Like to formally have materiality is to just be material, or to actually possess it. Virtually means you don't possess it like internally, but it's external. So, for example, there's the potter and then like the pot, right? He makes the pot with existing clay. The clay doesn't exist in himself, right? It's an external thing. And then I would define eminently as having
This isn't a
in
P and
higher
not P.
superior.
You're just making theological claims.
Well, I never claimed it was a
So you would have to
contradiction, but I still
say,
do believe it
you would have to
leads
say
a
not
contradiction.
God or something, right? Or like you'd have to provide that wouldn't even work. There's not actually a contradiction that you can state that's going to arise from this. You can try all you want. We
No,
can sit here for the next
I never claimed
hour.
that itself was a contradiction.
Okay. So
it
so
still
not God
leads to
world
a
is not a
contradiction.
contradiction. So it's a
It
logical
leads-
possibility, right?
It leads to a contradiction
But
because it
in
violates
logical
Newton's-
possibility, there's no contradiction, right?
No, I would affirm
Okay.
that because it leads into a contradiction.
So what that means
through
is
these things I'm
that
trying to tell you about,
so
it would end up being a logical.
Let's
possibility.
watch the
So-
over talking, everybody.
in my intro, I stated an argument. I actually sent this to you ahead of time. Necessarily, if God exists, God necessarily exists. You affirmed that in your introduction. Premise 2, possibly God doesn't exist, which you just affirmed with there being no logical contradiction with not God.
No, I didn't affirm that.
So the conclusion necessarily follows. Therefore, God doesn't exist. Welcome to
I
atheism.
I didn't affirm that.
So what's
I
a
affirmed that-
contradiction
I
in
affirm
not
that
God?
it leads into a contradiction, which would make it logically impossible, as I was trying to explain to you.
So it's
From the
literally just
principle-
not God that you need to provide a contradiction for.
Yes, from that being a violation of the principle of proportionate
You
causality.
don't get to do a bunch of like your metaphysic. You don't get to pull a bunch of metaphysics into this. This is literally
the contradiction
just.
arises.
You said there was no logical. Listen, Bug. You said there was no logical contradiction in not God.
I affirm that there is. It leads to that. It leads to a.
Doesn't
contradiction.
matter. Doesn't matter if you think that. You would be rejecting that. You would be rejecting that conceivability as possibility if we do that. So you would be saying that conceivability is not possibility, which would mean that you would have to operate from a different modality, right? So are you saying that conceivability is not possibility? So like if you can conceive of a not God world, does that mean that your God doesn't exist?
So you're saying what? You're saying that if like when it you said conceivability is what?
Is conceivability logical possibility in your view?
Well, like it's a. I would say no. I don't think conceivability is identical to logical impossibility.
All right. So all observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains. You can ask me questions for the next hour and a half. That's it.
Yeah. Wait. How does that have any relevance to what we were talking about?
That's it. You're stuck in nomological modality, nomological possibility, not like what's within the laws of physics and reality. You're stuck within that. So I presented a strong inductive argument. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains.
Well,
That's all I got.
If you're just saying that all thoughts come in virtue of brains, so therefore all thoughts come in virtue of brains.
No, I said all minds occur. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains.
That's the same thing as like the Gauss to the Gaps fallacy.
No, it's not. 100% of the minds that we've observed.
It's congruent. It's based on our observations. You'd have to show that our observations are objective.
It's a false premise. The one premise in it is a falsifiable premise. You just have to provide one single disembodied mind, and the argument isn't strong and cogent.
Yeah, and then if I couldn't provide one single time observation of this, then it's therefore true.
But no, it's strong and cogent, which would mean that none of us, because you're stuck in a nomological modality now.
Yeah.
You can only operate from inductive arguments. So your deductive
I can just show logically that this would be the case.
I mean, you could still do deduction and whatnot, but you can't get to your God with a deductive argument.
Given your necessary being that you believe in, you believe in a necessary being, and that's like this causes everything, right?
I want you to provide one disembodied mind.
Do you affirm that?
Can you not provide one disembodied mind?
Do you affirm that?
I'm happy to. You addressed
If
my
you
argument.
do, then I can give an example.
You addressed my argument, Bug. I'm happy to answer questions here in a little bit, but you addressed my argument.
Yeah,
saying
this
that,
is my address to your argument, because if you affirm this, then I can give an example.
Hold on a second. We got a $5 super chat from Cody. Cody says, "Connect the Bible to the necessary being, please." I'm guessing he's asking Bugs.
That's an irrelevant to what we're talking about. Right now.
The super chats always get answered, no matter if they're on topic or not.
And that was actually a question I asked for in the intro as well. I said I'd like to see Bible verses that point to the God existing necessarily, and so I think that ties directly into the topic myself.
Yeah, well, like, even if I just didn't provide an example of the Bible, of connecting the Bible to a necessary being or two necessary beings, it wouldn't matter.
Okay, Bugs, hold on, Bugs. If you don't do this, it's going to be hurting your religion's faith. I know it's outside of the debate.
You do know that the Bible isn't our sole authority, right?
Okay, it's going to hurt your church too.
How would that hurt the church?
Because you're not showing that your God that's formed your church and wrote your Bible is the necessary being that you're proposing.
Oh, it's asking for me to show that my God is that necessary being?
Well, I don't know if he meant the Bible or the church, but I think it is connect your faith to the necessary being.
Okay, then I would just go with the church teachings that connects my faith to the necessary being.
Thank you for the super chat, Cody.
Yeah. Okay, so as I was saying before.
So I'm going to point out right now, before you continue, that you just failed to address one of the questions in my introduction. You also addressed my strong and cogent inductive argument, and I can repeat that if you want. But all minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains. So you would need to provide one mind that occurs without a brain.
Okay, well, firstly, your question in your opening statement is just a red herring. That's not the topic. I still have the topic from Discord on what you said. It's does God exist necessarily? It's not.
That's directly tied to that. We're talking about the Christian God here. You're an Orthodox. We don't have to say, does the Christian God exist necessarily? I made it very clear in my introduction this was about the Christian God. If the Bible doesn't tie to a necessary being, then first off, you're arguing for like a bare theistic God, not an Orthodox Christian God.
The Bible does, but we can get into that after we address what you're talking about right now. You're asking me to give another example. Do you want specifically an observable example of where there's of this case?
Yeah, mind without a brain. Go.
Okay. Well, without a brain would mean that it's not observable.
So you don't have one example of a mind without a brain?
Because the question you're asking would be an example of something that isn't observable.
You don't have one disembodied mind for confirmation, right?
That's observable? No.
Okay, my argument's strong and cogent. There's no reason for anybody in the audience or myself to accept
I can show that something does exist, but not observably in the sense that you can physically see it.
You can't use deduction to get there. You'd have to use induction because you said conceivability is a possibility. So you'd have to point to the sciences and use the physical models and quantum field theory and physics and whatever else to lead to your God. You'd have to provide an evidential argument.
I denied that conceivability is identical to logical possibility.
Exactly.
Why does that then therefore mean I can't use deductive argumentation?
I just told you. You can't arrive at a logically possible God if conceivability is a possibility. That would mean that because you can conceive of this God that could exist in all possible worlds, that it's actually possible. You'd have to use some type of inductive argument for it.
How would that mean that I can't use a deductive argument? I don't see how that means I can't use a
Well, you
deductive
can
argument.
use deductive arguments in general, but for this type of metaphysical claim, like you could use deductive art, like all men are mortal, or men are mortal, or what Socrates. I can't do it on the spot here. I'm sorry, my heart's beating. But what's the classic one?
Men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal.
There you go. Yeah, the classic deductive argument, right? So like you could do stuff like that. You could infer from a general principle to a specific to like a general, or a general to like a specific, or something like that, right? But you would have, in this case, for this metaphysical claim, you would have to use a inductive argument to get to the metaphysics, because you're stuck in like a nomological modality. You couldn't just like say that because I can conceive of this thing and I can conceive that it's necessary, it exists in all possible worlds. That wouldn't work in your position.
Yeah. So then how would that mean that from me saying that conceivability is not identical to logical possibility, does that then mean that I can't deductively show that something can be conscious without a brain, or something exists that's conscious without a brain?
Well, you couldn't do that with deduction in the first place.
Well, yes, I could. You affirm a necessary being. That's the source of existence. I could then show that in accordance to the principle of proportionate causality, since us humans are conscious, there would need to be a source for this conscious. So that means that whatever
What's the definition? I don't even care about that.
Is that being the necessary being would either have to have consciousness formally, virtually, or eminently.
They told me I should ask a bunch of questions about definitions, but I don't care about any of that. You're just changing the topic. Basically, what's going on here is you declared that conceivability isn't logical possibility, which locks you out of the possible world semantics that you're trying to run for your God.
I said specifically that conceivability is not identical to logical impossibility, or logical possibility.
Exactly.
Okay. So, like, how is what I just said invalid about the conscious thing? Because I just showed from what you affirm.
I don't care. I don't care about you making stuff up anymore. I like you.
Okay,
said
so do you not believe in PPC?
I just don't care. You said conceivability is a possibility.
So you just don't care about the thing.
You are in nomological possibility right now. I gave you a strong and cogent inductive argument. You're failing to address my strong and cogent inductive argument by providing one disembodied mind. You can't possibly accept the possible world semantics for your God. I have no reason to even have a discussion about a disembodied mind with you. You're saying I can arrive deductively at a disembodied mind, but I just provided a strong and cogent inductive argument as to how all minds require.
1 second, fellas. We got a $5 super chat from Onomatopoeiaphobic for $5. Bug. Yeah. We have never observed a mind without a brain, and we can indirectly test for the effects of no-brain minds regarding science to prove they exist. Do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah, well, A, just basing on us never observing, it would be an argument of silence, and B, it would be an argument of ignorance to then say that there isn't a mind without a brain. B, what you said, when I said that explanation of how actually, or my justification or reasoning as to why consciousness does exist without a brain based on what you affirm, and then you said, I don't care, that's just an apathy fallacy, or what is it? Apathy fallacy. Where instead of just addressing what I said, you just dismiss my argument, not by just refuting it, but by just saying you don't care. That's just fallacious.
I already told you you'd have to provide an inductive argument.
Yet you haven't justified why I would have
Or
to.
sometimes I have multiple times. You're just not
Yeah,
listening.
but how does it
Can you
follow
repeat
that
back to
from
me
me
what?
saying conceivability is not identical to logical impossibility, that therefore I can't use deductive arguments anymore?
Well, I never said you couldn't just outright not use deduction. I just said for this type of metaphysical claim that you're making, you're going to have to make some type of inductive argument to it.
But why?
Because you're locked out of the possible world semantics that you're trying to run.
What possible world semantics am I trying to run?
You're claiming a necessary being. It has to exist in all possible worlds.
Okay. We both affirm that there's a necessary being that.
So you would be operating from some type of nomological modality and maybe some type of branching off metaphysical, or the metaphysical modality or possibility is the same as nomological modality, kind of like what I operate off of. And so you would have to arrive at your metaphysical claim with some type of inductive argument. And I provided you a strong, cogent inductive argument that shows that all minds occur in virtue of brains. And so I would want to see, I think the only way to move forward is you providing one example of a mind that exists without a brain.
Okay. I'm affirming a nomological modality. How does me saying conceivability is not identical to logical impossibility then
logical possibility, not logical impossibility,
could not occur or could occur without violating the laws of nature?
Because you lock yourself out of the possible world semantics that you're trying to run with the necessary being.
Hold please, we got a $5 super chat from Nobody on Fire.
There's other issues that arise, but
Nobody on Fire says, did I hear right that Bug stated conceivability is not equal to logical possibility? How else are you going to present a mind with no brain besides conceivability?
Yeah, when I said conceivability is not equal logical possibility, I opened up to the idea that you could probably imagine something that's logically impossible or metaphysically impossible, i.e., for example, you could imagine something that just exists for no reason, violating PSR, which I would say is a logical impossibility.
A Puff Addict and any orthobros you have are going to listen to this debate later, and they're going to rip into you for rejecting that conceivability is logical possibility, by the way.
Okay. From what I just said, was there anything you disagreed with? And then do you have a grounding?
I'm just waiting. There's not really
I have a question to clarify for the audience. What do you mean when you say PSR is would violate the logical possibility?
Yeah, so I would. PSR is the principle of sufficient reasoning. Do you want me to explain what that is, or do you want me to just explain how it violates LNC?
How it violates it, please.
Yeah. I would say that if you're denying PSR, you're saying that things can't exist as brute facts or without any rational grounding, reason to why they exist rather than no. So then within, you are saying that P, things do exist without a grounding, not P, things do not exist without a grounding. There is, within the realm of rational grounding, there is no distinction between the two, which is just a violation of law of non-contradiction.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, do you think that the principle of sufficient reason is a law of logic?
No. But I affirm that denying it violates a law of logic.
Okay. Okay. So I guess I'm just gonna wait here until you've provided some type of empirical evidence for mind without a brain.
Yeah, why am I
the only way we can move forward is because if that's the case, then minds can't exist without. I provided a strong inductive argument, man. I'll present it again.
Yeah,
all observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains.
Yeah, I provided an example from your worldview on why it's not actually the case. You affirm that there's a necessary being as the source of all existence, in accordance to the principle of
None of this
proportional
matters. I just
causality.
provided a strong inductive argument.
Yeah,
Just
your
not
strong inductive
addressing the
argument
argument.
doesn't work because in accordance to the principle of proportionate causality, what exists in the effect must exist in the cause, either formally, virtually, or eminently. So within
just
your
a
worldview,
non-response.
your necessary being would have to be conscious. It couldn't
This is just a
virtually.
non-response.
Hmm?
I presented a strong and cogent inductive
Yeah,
argument.
and I'm showing you. Okay, so do you reject the principle of proportionate causality then?
I don't know. I don't care. We're talking about my inductive argument.
Well,
Why
you
are you not
should
addressing the
care
inductive
because
argument?
my refutation on why that doesn't work
You're trying to use a
is
deductive
because of the
argument.
principle of proportionate
You're
causality.
trying to use a deductive argument that's going to end up that you think is going to end up with minds being conceivable, but being conceivable according to your own position and my position means that it's not equivalent to logical possibility.
It doesn't
right?
always mean
Which
that
means
it's
that
logically
it's not
possible.
actually
but the majority of the
logically.
time I've affirmed
That
it.
means it's not actually logically possible, and so whatever my answer is doesn't matter because you have to address the
No, so
I'm
what would
changing the
that-
topic and address the strong inductive argument I provide.
So what that would mean with what I said, conceivability is not identical to logical impossibility, is then if I conceive something, if you believe it's logically impossible, you could show that that's the case, or that's what it would lead to. I'm just affirming that that just because something's conceivable, i.e. you can imagine it, doesn't 100% of the time absolutely always mean that's logically possible. I could imagine, for example, a red box that violates PSR, which would violate a law of logic. Or I can imagine...
Wait, you think that PSR is a law of logic?
No.
So PSR isn't a law of logic, so it has nothing to do with logical
But I would say
possibility.
violation of PSR is a logical impossibility. I explained why.
No, that's not how
Do you
logical
disagree?
possibility works. You're just confused.
Do you disagree?
Now, I provided a strong inductive argument, and you need to provide a mind
and I gave a
without a
deductive
brain,
argument.
or what
And
would
your
also be known
reasoning
as a
on why I can't
disembodied
use
mind.
that is because of...
Or I can just say that your God can't exist necessarily because you claim it has a mind.
Okay. Why?
I need to come up with a way to
Why can't I
have these
use...
debates.
I asked you why I can't use a deductive argument, and you're talking about because I said conceivability.
Well, I said you
is
can
not
use
identical to
deductive
logical
arguments.
possibility. So that would mean that just because I conceive of something or think of something doesn't mean that it's logically possible. But I didn't say, when I made that claim, I didn't say that that means that anything you conceive is logically impossible.
Exactly.
I affirm that
that's a problem for your position.
A potential in which something you conceive is logically impossible. So if that means I could still use a deductive argument to conceive of something, but there's a potential that it would violate, something I conceive could violate a law of logic, which that would mean you would then need to show. So that wouldn't mean I can't use a deductive argument.
I presented a strong
that just
inductive
means I
argument
could conceive of something that violates the law of logic.
I presented a strong inductive argument against...
Yes, and I provided a deductive argument.
Right, but I'll just represent the strong inductive argument.
Based on what you affirm within your worldview.
So conceivability isn't possibility, right?
Causality?
So you said that conceivability isn't possibility. So even if I accepted that argument, that doesn't mean it's actually possible. Don't you understand this?
But if you believe that it's not actually possible,
so I would just
justify that. You have to show how it's logically impossible.
I am. I don't have to show it's logically impossible.
With what I said with the PPP
don't interrupt me.
What's logically
You're
impossible?
interrupting me because you're broken now. So I get it, but it doesn't matter if I even respond to the argument because whatever I say to that argument is all I have to do is just represent the inductive argument. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains. And then your God can't be necessary.
Are you affirming that my deductive argument violates the law of logic? That it's not logically possible?
You're not picking up anything I'm saying.
Do you affirm that
it doesn't matter Because being
Well, yes, it
logically
does,
possible,
because if
or
it
it doesn't
doesn't
matter, but
violate a law
it
of
doesn't
logic,
matter
well,
because
yes,
being
it does, because if it doesn't
conceivable.
violate a law of logic,
I'm
then that
trying
means what I
to. Do
said
you
is
want me to
logically
explain this, or do you
impossible.
just want to
So
talk
you
at me?
can't keep running away from the deductive argument. Instead, you'd have to address it. So that would leave you with, like, for example, you deny
You just
what
want to
it
talk
hinges
at
on,
me.
that being the principle of proportionate causality. Or you affirm
So-
it and then affirm that you're within your worldview, your necessary being would have to be conscious.
So, you said conceivability is a logical possibility. So even if you provide some type of argumentation or the thought that a disembodied mind can exist or something like that, just because it's conceivable doesn't mean it's actually possible. So we go back to the strong inductive argument. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains.
How does
I
that
don't know
mean
where else to go
my
from here.
deductive argument is thrown out the window?
Yeah, I just presented a strong inductive argument.
No, why does that mean my deductive argument is thrown out the window and you don't have, it's like invalid?
So, do you know what valid and sound means?
Yes.
Can you define valid?
In reference to, like, something
Deductive
valid,
argument. What's a valid deductive argument?
something valid would refer would be if it's impossible for all the premises to be true and the conclusion to be false at the same time.
And what's a sound and deductive argument?
A sound, like an example of a sound deductive argument, or just what's that mean?
What's a definition of a sound deductive argument?
I mean, would it sound and valid be synonymous there?
No.
It would be, well, a sound deductive argument would be if it's valid and if all the premises are actually true.
Okay. So my strong inductive argument would mean that whatever premise that you have leading to a conceivable disembodied mind, whatever premise that is that leads to that, would not be true, because I have a strong inductive argument against it. And so you've denied conceivability as logical possibility. So the only thing you can do at this point is provide one example of a disembodied mind.
Okay, wait. So explain to me the jump from, based on what I said, that if I believe conceivability doesn't equal like is an identical logical possibility, that my like deductive argument can be false.
Yeah, as you said, if it's conceivability isn't logical possibility, just because you can conceive of something because it has no contradiction doesn't mean that it can actually exist. You would have to.
So
The only
then
way that
if
you could
you
actually
believe-
tell. You keep over talking me when you ask me questions and I'm answering. And so the only thing that you could do for the example of a mind without a brain, or like a disembodied mind, like you're posing this necessary being that you claim has, would be to provide an example of a mind without a brain, so that we know that that's logically, not just logically possible, but so that we know that's nomologically possible, because that would be the only way that you could know that something is logically possible from your view if it was nomologically possible.
That presupposes that then,
or maybe some like branching metaphysics
would
off.
be logically impossible. A deductive, if from what I said, a deductive argument could be logically possible. It just doesn't mean that every single thing you can see
You would have the
is
problem of
automatically logically
deduction.
impossible. So that would mean then that if my deductive argument, you could show how it would be logically impossible if you want to make that claim. But it's possible
I don't need
that
to.
it is logically possible.
I don't need to. I provided a strong inductive argument against
so
minds without
your
brains.
rejection for my deductive argument is just based on nothing.
I provided a
You're
strong
not rejecting
inductive
the
argument.
premises. You're not rejecting that it's logically impossible.
The premises aren't going to be true. I don't even have to address it. I've provided a strong inductive argument.
Yes, an inductive argument that you provided isn't absolute. It's just highly probable that this is the case.
Right, you just have to provide.
So if I provide a deductive argument, which is if the premises follow and they're true, then the conclusion follows by necessity, if I could provide that and that was the case, then your inductive argument would be false. So since I provided a deductive argument, you either have to show how it violates a law of logic, or the premises aren't all true. For
That's
example,
not true.
hold on.
Conceivability is a
PPC thing,
possibility from
you
your
could show
view,
how.
Hold on, guys. We got a $5 super
Causality is
chat
false.
from onomatopoeia phobic. I can't say that.
Onomatopoeia-phobic.
That's it. $5. BLA violating PSR is not a problem. PSR is a claim, not fact. Please explain with no jargon why violating PSR is not possible, Bugs.
I've explained it like twice now.
Maybe do it in simple terms so we can all get it.
Yeah, so PSR is the principle of sufficient reasoning. I don't think I need to redefine that. It's if you deny PSR, you're stating that brute facts can exist, i.e. things can exist without grounding. So if you take P, things exist without grounding, not P, things do not exist without grounding. In terms of like rational grounding, there's no distinction between the two since neither have rational grounding. So it would be a contradiction.
Thank you for that. And also let you guys know it's a 2-minute warning. Get your super chats in now to extend the discussion.
Oh, do you know how much have you been tracking it? So we know how much more time is left, because it looks like there's a lot of time left.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know after you get to the
Okay.
1 minute.
Yeah. So you are failing to address my strong inductive argument.
I
Whatever
addressed
argument
it.
you provide, why do you keep interrupting me? Whatever argument you provide that is going to be talking about a mind without a brain is not necessarily going to be logically possible, because you're saying that this is conceivable, and conceivable is not possibility in your view. So whatever argument that you're providing from your position that's going to say that a mind, and it's not from my position either, as I mentioned in my introduction, logical possibility or like some type of metaphysical possibility is either going to be identical to the nomological possibility, or maybe like a little bit branching off, right? But what you're saying is that conceivability is not possibility, right? So that doesn't mean that if you strictly provide a logical argument for it and provide a premise saying this is conceivable, none of that matters. I provided a strong inductive argument against disembodied minds. The only way to move forward on your end is to provide one example of a disembodied mind. Without that, that's all I have to say. That strong inductive argument, I'm literally just going to repeat this until you provide an example of a mind without a brain, or a disembodied mind.
Wait, that's a good place to stop. That's time. We have 4 seconds left. Great debate, guys. Good job for both debaters.
How much time is remaining? Do you want me to count it out real fast?
No, I got it. So Cody requested per chat that he not have his super chats counted towards the extra time. So the super chat extra time minus Cody's is 24 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm going to add 24 minutes to the clock.
Thank you, Cody. I was thinking about conceding because this is just going to get stuck here.
Well, it's up to you guys. You guys are the kings here. So if you want to
Yeah,
keep going
I
for
have
that extra
one-
24
I
minutes. or
promised the audience it.
not. Okay.
In the thing.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Here we go.
you're saying, obviously, from my worldview, you're just saying that just because something's deductive, something conceivable, doesn't mean that it's automatically logically possible.
Your
that
argument
also-
is basically
That also means that doesn't mean that it's automatically logically impossible. So there could be a deductive argument that I present that's logically possible, and there is a chance that it's logically impossible. So if you are affirming, that means I could give a deductive argument like I did, which then means you could say that it's a logical impossibility, and then you would have to show that. It doesn't automatically mean that every deductive argument I bring up is now logically impossible. So given the deductive argument I brought up, if you believe it's logically impossible, justify that. If you don't believe it's logically impossible, then the conclusion either necessarily follows unless you reject one of the premises.
None of this matters. I provided a strong and cogent inductive argument that ends with the conclusion. I'll just reread the whole argument, actually. All minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains. So if you want to argue with a deductive argument for a disembodied mind, you have to reference what's nomologically possible, find a disembodied mind, and then make your argument from that disembodied mind to the necessary being having a disembodied mind. Without that, none of your argument for a disembodied mind, necessary being, will be sound.
Okay, so why, because you provided an inductive argument, does that mean that my deductive argument is automatically false and you don't have to address it entirely?
I
It's
just
basically
told you, you're
taking an
not listening
inductive
to
argument
anything
as
I'm
absolute.
saying, and I'm getting really tired of repeating myself. Can you repeat back to me what I said?
I asked you a question.
Which was answered with what I just responded to you with. So can you repeat back to me what I can you repeat back to me what I just told you so that you can answer the question you just asked me that I just answered?
No, I can't repeat you back word for word what you said.
Do you need me to explain it again because you weren't listening?
Yes, I want you to explain to me how, because you provided an inductive argument, that therefore my deductive argument's false and you don't have to address it.
Because, once again, the inductive argument that I provided is all observed minds occur in virtue of brains, therefore all minds occur in virtue of brains. So that's a strong and cogent inductive argument against disembodied minds. Now, you're claiming that you can make a deductive argument for a disembodied mind. I don't care about the validity at all. I can just grant an argument like that. It's going to be valid. I don't even have to look at the argument if you're telling me you're arguing for a disembodied mind necessary being, which is what you told me you're arguing for when conceivability isn't possibility in your view, right? And so with that being said, you're going to have to provide some type of strong inductive argument or an example of disembodied mind that you can use and reference, some type of reference so that we know this is an actual thing that exists to talk about in your argument. Because otherwise, you're just arguing nonsense.
Okay, so from what you said, you provided the inductive argument you provided is that all minds observed are in virtue of brains, therefore all minds are in virtue of brains. I provided a deductive argument for minds existing without brains, and you said you didn't have to address it, but you didn't explain why specifically.
I did.
I was
because
writing down what you were
conceivability is a
saying.
possibility. That means you're going to have to reference the nomological and pull in a disembodied mind and say we have an example of a disembodied mind here, and then you're going to have to make argumentation around that disembodied mind to get to a disembodied mind necessary being.
Yeah, so conceivability doesn't equal logical possibility. That doesn't mean that therefore any thing you conceive is not logically possible. It could still be something you conceive could still be logically possible. So you would still have
what it means
to address
is
the argument.
that
You wouldn't have to address it if when I said conceivability is not identical to logical possibility, that means that anything you conceive is logically impossible. But from what I said, it's possible that something you conceive isn't logically possible, and it's also possible that something I conceive is logically possible. So that you would then have to either show how it isn't logically possible, or it is. You'd have to address the deductive argument. You don't automatically get to throw it out.
What conceivability not equaling logical possibility means is that just because you can conceive of a mind without a brain or a disembodied mind, it doesn't mean that it's automatically logically possible even.
Hold on. We got a $5 super chat from Ruger. He's asking, can Taco please drop what he's asking in Discord? Okay, thanks. Heart.
Ruger, hit me up after the debate because this is really hard to do while I'm sitting here having a conversation. But if you send me a DM on Discord asking for that, I'll hit you up after the debate. So let me know. You don't have to let me know, but just hit me up on Discord and I'll hit you up after the debate.
Thanks for the super chat, Ruger.
Yeah, so
5 more minutes.
Yeah, so from what you said, you just repeated conceivability. If I say conceivability doesn't equal logically possibility, that doesn't mean that something I conceive is logically possible. You regurgitated that, but it also doesn't mean that something you conceive isn't isn't logically possible.
Oh no!
You would have to
Super
show
chat.
that means that something I conceive could be logically possible, i.e., a deductive argument could be logically possible. It doesn't automatically mean it isn't logically possible. So I could
Okay.
provide a deductive argument, and that doesn't mean you just don't have to address it. You would have to address it, i.e., by either showing that it's that thing I conceive, that deductive argument, isn't logically possible, or that it isn't valid, i.e., the premises
Okay.
aren't all true.
We got a couple super chats. I hate to cut you off here. We got Professor Hizzle for $5. Thank you to both interlocutors for the enjoyable conversation, and special thank you to myself for moderating the evening. And he also requests not to add the 5 minutes to the time. Thank you, Hizzle. And Nobody on Fire for $5. Let's get the deductive argument for the disembodied mind again. Okay.
I gotcha. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains.
So that's your inductive argument. Can you address what I just said?
Logical possibility, in your view, does not equate to conceivability, which we have no examples of disembodied minds in the real world. And so you're saying that conceivability is not necessarily logical possibility. And so you're operating from some type of nomological possibility to get to a disembodied mind and then to move from there. And so you can't just say that a disembodied mind is... What's up?
Nobody on Fire is actually requesting that Bugs answer his question.
Oh, okay.
Their question.
Oh, for the disembodied. I'm sorry, I misread that.
Yeah, what I was saying was that he affirms that there's a necessary being that is the source of all existence. It's this first cause. He believes that it's not conscious. I affirm that in accordance to the principle of proportionate causality, what exists in the effect must exist in the cause either formally, virtually, or eminently. And that would mean that ultimately that the necessary being that he believes in would have to be conscious. Now, he is rejecting this under the grounds that because I said conceivability isn't identical to logical possibility, meaning that it's possible you could think of something that's logically impossible, that therefore he doesn't have to address my deductive argument. But that what I said there doesn't mean that anything you conceive is automatically logically impossible. Some things you conceive can be logically possible. So you would still have to address the argument.
The only way that you could get to a disembodied mind is through induction or some type of empirical evidence, or some type of empirical evidence. So
your reasoning for that is because conceivability doesn't equal logical possibility in my worldview.
I do greatly appreciate the super chats, guys. I'm just being facetious because every $5 super chat means 5 more minutes.
Another $5 super chat from the Kenneth. Bugs claim A equals B equals C, so A equals C is deductive and always true. Then cats equal dogs because cats equals chickens equals dogs. It's conceivable, valid, but Bug has the burden of proof, not Taco.
Yeah, that's not what I said. I'm not.
Thank you, Kenneth.
A equals B equals C. I'm not saying, for example, that would be that would be an actual logical impossibility.
And he said, "Do not add time." Yes.
Yeah. So
got it.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, for example, PPC is identical to me or something like that. That would be an A equals B. Nowhere in what I said did I ever make an A equals B claim. If I did, if you believe that, you could tell me what that was. But anyways, from what I just said, can you show me why that's my deductive argument's automatically false? Even though with what I said, I don't believe that just because something's conceived that it's automatically logically impossible.
Because you're going to have to reference something from reality, and you're going to have to extrapolate from that thing in reality, that referent in reality. You're going to have to extrapolate from that.
$5
to
super
your
chat from Cody. Sorry to
metaphysical
butt in
claim.
there. Cody says, Bugs, is it possible there's not a God? And Cody's already requested not to add the times.
No, I don't believe that.
Thank you, Cody. Just to let you guys know, 21 minutes left.
So breakfast, can you address what I said? Because you did interrupt.
I have many times.
Well, the super chat interrupted you. Because what you're saying, you understand that it's possible that the deductive argument is logically valid, right?
Oh man,
Do you
conceivability
understand that?
is not logical possibility in your view, which means that being able to conceive of something doesn't mean that it could be true.
Does
It
that
might not be true.
that doesn't
And
answer
so when you say that a disembodied mind exists in any state, you have to have some type of referent for a disembodied mind to say that this is something that can exist.
I have one. I was providing one.
After
Okay,
this
provide the
super
reference.
chat,
I provided
after
it
this
was
super chat,
necessary.
Cody H for $5. That a mind without a brain isn't possible. You could have both.
Yeah, if you keep taking what I said, that conceivability is an identical to logical possibility, to then mean that every deductive argument is logically impossible. I asked you if you believe that it's logically possible that my deductive argument is logically possible, is valid.
It doesn't matter if it's valid or not.
Is it possible that my deductive argument is logically valid?
It doesn't matter.
Yes or
You're
no?
arguing.
Well,
The
if
point
yes,
is,
then you would have to address that it isn't valid to then go with the inductive thing, because
not if
what you're saying here, your
conceivability
denial
isn't possibility.
presupposes that it's logically impossible. So if
Not
you
if
don't believe that,
conceivability isn't
then you have
logical
to justify that it's
possibility.
logically impossible.
If conceivability isn't logical possibility, then you would have to reference you'd have to have a referent of a disembodied mind. And did you read this one already, BS?
Yeah, we read that one. We got a $10 super chat from Nobody on Fire, who is letting me have the discretion of adding the 10 minutes to the counter here. So I'm still mulling that over. Nobody on Fire says, you said conceivability is not equal to possibility. This means conceiving is not adding credence. You're conceiving of a mind with no brain that then has no credence to add. Your affirmative claim suffers from this. I think it's talking to you, Bugs. Thank you, Nobody on Fire. And I won't add it.
Yeah, well, with this, obviously, just because you conceive of something, I don't believe it's automatically logically possible. But that doesn't mean that because you conceive of something, it's not automatically logically impossible. So you would have to justify. That means within this paradigm, there is a chance you could conceive of something that's logically impossible, but you would have to justify that is the case. That's the claim that Breakfasttacos is indirectly making to deny my deductive argument and say that and go with his inductive argument, but he's not providing how it's logically impossible. I'm still waiting for you to show me how it's logically possible.
Tacos, he said you get to decide for the 10 minutes, not me. He was asking me to let you decide.
Bugs, do you want that to add time or no?
No.
Okay, go with Bugs' answer. So, okay. I mean, I've already addressed this over and over, right? The burden of proof is on you right now to demonstrate that there is a disembodied mind that exists in reality that we can observe.
I provided that with a deductive argument, but you're saying is logically impossible.
That's a deductive argument can't prove that something exists, ding dong.
What is a deductive argument, Breakfasttacos?
We'll find out after this super chat for $5 from Nobody on Fire. Then your argument deserves no credence. You are the affirmative, Nobody on Fire says. Thank you, Nobody on Fire. I'm guessing
Do you know
not
what
to add that.
Do you know what the problem of deduction is?
Hmm.
That you have to have stuff outside of your brain that you refer to come up with definitions for things. And if you don't have a referent, you don't have anything to talk about, and you're just operating off of definitions that you made up. And so by saying you're basically saying I'm trying to define a disembodied mind into existence.
And then with that, we got a $10 super chat from Ruger saying, at all this time, yes, a disembodied mind can exist because although sensory perception depends on the body, pure thought, abstract reasoning, and self-awareness do not. Whose side did I just take? Thank you, Ruger.
You're taking my side.
10 more minutes added to the clock.
Yay. Thank you, Ruger. Love you, bro. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
so I'm saying I define a deductive argument as an argument in which the conclusion follows necessarily from the premises. And if the
It
premises
doesn't matter if you're just using definitions, though. You can't define stuff into existence.
Okay, so I'm defining a deductive argument into existence.
You're trying to define a disembodied mind into existence.
I was defining what a deductive argument is. I didn't define a disembodied mind.
Actual observed example.
Where did I define a disembodied mind into existence?
You're trying to define it. You're saying that I can deductively prove that disembodied minds exist.
How is that me just defining it into existence?
Because there's not an example of one in reality.
If the deductive argument is true, then that would be an example of one in reality. So in order to address,
so
you would have to address.
So I have a deductive argument for you, and I'm stealing this from jail.
Are you going to address my deductive argument?
Let me see. How would I formulate this? I'm trying to formulate a deductive argument, but I'm failing here because I'm on the spot. Shit, I forgot the argument Jail used. Shit. Jail, type your motherfucker argument in chat if you're in chat still. I forgot the motherfucker argument. God damn it. But I could make a deductive argument. And if it's valid, does that mean it's true?
Yes, that's what a deductive argument is. If the premises are true, then the conclusion is logically followed.
You could tell us why you're laughing after this super chat from Cody H. $5 says, I can't explain a disembodied mind in a cohesive manner. Seems like bugs can't either. Tacos has already explained the universe cohesively without God. Thank you, Cody.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is
we got another one too. Let me get them both out of the way.
Yep.
Onomatopoeiaphobic. Sorry for butchering that. $5. Bug. Not impossible is not any evidence for true. Taco is saying you have no evidence. You're just saying you can't prove it. It's impossible. Prove it is. Thank you.
Yeah, my evidence would be the deductive argument.
All right. So here's the deductive argument. Bugs exists if he's a motherfucker. Bugs exist, therefore he's a motherfucker. Is that a sound argument?
How does that logically follow? Like, what's the justification that premise one is true?
Okay. So validity doesn't mean that validity doesn't mean the argument is true.
Once again, I said a deductive argument is works if the premises are true. If the premises are true, then the conclusion logically follows.
Yeah.
And it would
So
still have
no.
to be like a
What I'm
logically
saying
follow.
is, no premise. We cannot. There is no example of a disembodied mind in reality. So if you have any premises that point to a disembodied mind, we will have no. In fact, we will have good reason to believe that the premises pointing towards a disembodied mind are false.
That
without you having
presupposes your
examined the
position. That
disembodied mind.
presupposes that there isn't any examples, which is
Okay.
what we're debating on. That's just circular.
Let me squeeze in here, fellas. We got a $10 super chat from Ruger. He says, add this time as well. Prove me wrong, tacos. Minds are capable of intellectual states. Intellectual states are not essential to the body. I can't add the time because we've hit our 60-minute cap already.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Well, I do appreciate all the support, people. But so prove me wrong, Taco. Minds are capable of intellectual states. Intellectual states are not essential to the body. I mean, there's all sorts of species that exist, all sorts of animals that exist without brains or minds like we have, right? But that doesn't mean, but they have bodies and well, not intellectual. Anything with a mind or a brain is going to have intellectual states, right? But there's not. So let me rephrase. I'm sorry, I misspeak. So intellectual states are going to arise from a mind. A mind arises from a brain. But there's all sorts of like other animals that exist out there that have like the ability to like feel stuff and whatnot. But those aren't going to have intellectual states. But you're not going to have a single example. What's an intellect? I don't even know what intellect. I'm just assuming intellectual state is like a thought or something, right? There are no examples of thoughts occurring without a mind. I don't consider AI to have a mind, so I'm not saying AI, right? But even if AI was at some point decided that it has a mind, it would still be mind requiring some type of physical substrate, like the brain, right? It would require like computers and all that stuff to operate, right? Which would be analogous to a brain, right? But do you have an example of Ruger? You want to super chat more and provide one example of something having a thought that doesn't have a mind, or if you consider AI, which I don't to have a mind yet, so that doesn't seem to have a mind yet. But if you think that AI has a mind, do you have one example of something without a brain or like a physical substrate having an intellectual state, whatever that is, a thought or something like that? I'd love to see something like that. I would love for somebody to to convert me to like a Christian, right? That would be like the ultimate grift, right? Like, think about all the people that would swarm this. I'm not just like rejecting disembodied minds for no good reason, right? As I said, there's a strong inductive argument. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains, right? Like, that is a strong inductive argument. There's not one instance of a mind occurring without a brain. And that's what I'm asking Bugs for. I'm asking him to prove that he's got a referent for a mind without a brain. I just want one referent for a mind without a brain so we know that this is actually possible.
Were you talking to me?
Yeah, one referent, please.
Yeah. My reference of an example of where this is.
No,
you want a
your
reference of how this is.
Your referent. The thing that you would refer to. The mind without the brain.
Yes, my
Holy
example
shit.
that I provided with my
You're
argument,
even
which you
less
refused to
educated on
address.
philosophy than me, and you're arguing for this?
Are you ever going to address my argument?
I have.
You haven't. You just said because I said conceivability is an identical logical possibility that then my deductive argument's invalid. You have to show, if you're making the claim that my deductive argument is logically impossible, i.e. violates the law of logic, show me.
It doesn't matter. A logical
It
possibility.
does,
or
because then
no,
it's just
no,
a
it
fair
doesn't.
assertion
Because
fallacy. It's just
conceivability,
ungrounded while you're rejecting it.
in
You're
your view,
rejecting it just
in your
because.
view, conceivability is a possibility. So even if you can demonstrate it's logically possible, doesn't mean that, or even if you can conceive of it, doesn't mean that it's logically possible. And logically possible isn't going to demonstrate that something's actual, right? But once again, this argument. Okay, I got that right. Is this a valid argument? What was that? Awareness of self does not depend on sensory or bodily
In the sense that
input.
it logically follows,
Disembodied mind
yes.
lacks sensory or bodily input,
Right.
therefore it doesn't. No, that doesn't follow. Awareness of self. I'm talking about minds. If you're saying that awareness of self is equating to a mind, I mean, maybe like sentience, right? But maybe you're saying sentience. But sentience does require a mind. 100% of sentient things have a mind.
So the argument you just provided me, the orthobros one, that logically follows. It's a modus ponens, but that doesn't mean it's true. You would have to all the premises would have to be true, as I explained.
So how would I? So premise one.
Okay. How does this therefore mean my deductive argument?
So this is a logically valid argument, right?
Yes.
So
it logically follows.
What I'm saying with this is that the fact that even if I grant your argument is valid, it doesn't mean that the premises are true. You would still have to have a reference of a disembodied mind.
But you won't tell me what premise you disagreed with. I told you that like maybe 6 times.
It doesn't matter. You're arguing for disembodied mind. You have to have a reference for a disembodied mind.
I need a reference for a disembodied mind. Well, you could. Okay.
I think Tacos is saying that you took the affirmative on this debate, so it's your job to demonstrate the affirmative.
Okay. Yeah, well, with the referent I provided, when you're talking about a referent, it's just, a referent is just something that like,
the thing that exists
like
that we would refer to that allows us to know that this is something that we can refer to.
Yes, the referent I was making would be God, the necessary being you affirm exists. It'd be things like the principle of proportionate causality. It's a real thing, or word, a phrase that exists.
None of that matters to you proving that a disembodied
I
mind
provide
exists.
Those are reference.
You think that a metaphysical claim is a referent? Maybe in the sentence, but maybe in like whatever premise. But what I'm saying is, you have to demonstrate. You're trying to get to like a metaphysical claim about a disembodied mind existing, right? So you have to be able to reference something in reality that actually exists to be able to claim this in your argument, or you could claim whatever you want in a logical argument, right?
Or
but you don't interrupt me. You constantly interrupt me. So you would have to provide one example, as simply as I can put this. You have to provide one example of a disembodied mind that exists.
Or I provide the logical impossibility of the contrary. Which is what the deductive argument I was providing was doing. I was providing how, with what you affirmed, with the necessary.
So my logical argument: all orthobros fuck their mothers. Bug loves all is an orthobro. Bug loves all fucks his mother. That's going to be true that's going to be a sound argument if I allow what you say to go.
It would be.
You don't have a reference. True
if you show that it's a logical impossibility for orthobros not to do this thing. It's
a valid argument
by reference, or by, for example,
it's a valid argument.
Contradiction. It's a
If
valid
I
argument, but
grant
it's
the
I'm
line
talking
of
about in
logic,
reference to whether a premise is true or not.
if
An
I grant
argument
the
can be
line of logic
logically
that you're
valid,
running,
but it doesn't mean it's just true. The premises also take weight, as I told you with how I explained a deductive argument.
if I
Otherwise,
grant
I
the
could
line,
just give you a modus ponens that just tells us that the necessary being's God, and then I just automatically debunk your position. That's not how it works.
if I grant the line of logic that you're using without a referent and say that without a referent, a disembodied mind can exist, then I would also have to grant that you fuck your mother.
How?
Because all ortho bros fuck their mothers.
Are you saying that a reference the only way you can justify the truth of a premise?
So for what you're trying to provide, it depends on what you're talking about. You're talking about a disembodied mind. You're saying that a disembodied mind can exist in reality.
What
And
did I
I
just
provided
ask
a
you?
strong inductive argument. I'll read it off again. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains.
What did I just
So
ask you?
I've provided a strong inductive argument against minds existing without brains. And so it's your burden of proof to provide one mind that we know that exists without a brain.
Yeah. What was the question I asked you?
I don't even know. I'm not even listening anymore. You're just saying the same thing
Okay,
over and
so I
over.
asked you.
You're asking me
Okay.
a bunch of nonsense that's not
I
related
asked
to
you,
you
do you believe
providing
the
a
only
mind
way
with a
you can
brain.
justify
If
a
you
premise
ask me
is
a
true is by
question
reference?
rather than providing a mind without a brain, you're not meeting your burden of proof.
Do you believe that the only way to justify a premise's truth is by reference, and it can't be done by, for example,
It's going to depend on the
contradiction,
topic.
logical?
Depend on
Okay.
what you're talking about. Like
The
some
way I was
arguments
doing
are
it is
true
by
in
logical necessity, by
like
contradiction.
deductive arguments are going to be true in virtue of the definitions, right? But what I'm saying is that a disembodied mind isn't actually something that appears to exist. And so I'm asking you to provide one disembodied mind that exists.
So in this scenario, my deductive argument, the only way my premises can be true is by reference.
Wait, let me jump in here for a $5
Wait, I
from
have to
Nobody
say
on
this
Fire.
real quick. I'm starting to believe that you might not have a brain, Bug.
But let's watch the personal attacks.
Fast.
Nobody on Fire for $5. Bug, all due respect, concede, dude. You have not shown the impossibility of zero minds without brains anyway.
He hasn't disagreed with that premise. So why
I
would
just don't
say
need
that
to address the argument until you provide a mind without a brain.
So you're saying, with my deductive argument, the only way my premises can be true is by reference.
So your argument that you were running, we got stuck on premise
going
2.
to
This is
answer?
like premise. Let me pull your argument back up. This is you jumped
No,
from
the
premise
deductive
2.
argument I just provided you.
So in your argument,
Is it
stop
only
interrupting
clear by
me.
reference?
Holy
I
shit!
asked you a
You are
question.
constantly interrupting
Answer
me.
the question.
So you jumped to premise
Yes, no.
6 in your argument from premise 2. Premise 2 got shut down, and now you're jumping to premise 6 in the
I'm
argument.
not even
But I'm
mentioning my
asking
premise
you
6.
to provide so premise 6, according to the principle of proportionate causality, the effect must pre-exist in its cause, formally, virtually, or eminently. And then you're also jumping to premise 7, since consciousness exists in human beings, and the first mover is ill to blah, 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 blah. So what I'm saying is that you need to demonstrate that one mind exists without a brain. I've already provided a strong inductive argument against that claim. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains. Provide one example of a mind that occurs without a brain. Just one.
So you're saying the only way I can justify the truth of these premises is by reference.
Bugs, we're at the 5-minute mark. Let's land the plane with limited interruptions, limited over talking. Let's do this civil.
So you're saying the only way I can justify the truth of my premise is by reference.
If you're talking about, like I said, it depends on what you're talking with a disembodied
With what we're
mind.
talking about right now.
You're not going to be able to reason a disembodied mind into existence.
With what we're talking about right now, the only way I can show the truth of that premise is by reference. The one you just quoted from.
With a disembodied, I will repeat myself. with a disembodied mind,
It's a yes or no
or I
question.
guess say it similarly. With a disembodied mind, you're going to have to show that a disembodied mind exists before you argue for a disembodied mind existing in a state out. How do I phrase this? So you're arguing that a mind can be a metaphysical grounding claim, right? But we don't even know that a disembodied mind can exist. In fact, all the evidence would suggest otherwise. All the evidence shows that minds require brains. So once again, all observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains. So you would have to provide to argue for, because I could literally, even if I address your argument, it's going to be the same thing. It's just going to be
When are you going to
asking
answer my
for
question?
a mind that exists without a brain. That's all I want. I'm asking you to meet your burden of proof in this argument and provide
Was
a
that a
mind
yes
that can
to my
exist
question?
without a brain. I don't care about your questions anymore. I want a mind that exists without a
You're
brain.
not-
This
you're
is
not
what I've been
accepting what
asking
I'm saying.
for like over an hour, dude.
Yeah, I would affirm that to justify the truth. Okay, justify this to me then. Justify that the only way I can justify the truth of my premise is by reference.
I don't need to justify anything.
Well, that's
I've
what you're
already
saying.
I've already answered the questions around this.
No, you haven't.
All over
You
the
literally
place.
said you didn't
I
care
want
about my
you to
question.
meet your burden of proof and provide a mind without a brain.
That presupposes that the only way to justify the truth of my premise is by reference. Justify that that's the only way to justify the truth of my premise.
Because you said conceivability is not logical possibility, which means that's not actually necessarily possible just because you can conceive of it. And so you have to show that this thing can exist in reality.
Why can't I show that justify the truth of that premise by contradiction or by
Bro,
logical
you have been
necessity?
asking this question for a fucking hour.
And you haven't given me
What are you
an
not
answer.
understanding? You said
Why
that
can't I do
logical. You said that conceivability is not logical possibility. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, it's not identical.
Okay. So that means that just because you can conceive of something, it's not logically possible. Which in this case, you're talking about some type of metaphysical possibility because you're talking about the metaphysical grounding that you're claiming, the necessary being having a mind. And it's going to be a disembodied mind. And so I'm asking you, what is one example of a disembodied? So there, once you got to that point, I said all observed minds occur in virtue of brains. Therefore, all minds occur in virtue of brains. Because you made the logical possibility or conceivability isn't logical possibility, I can just drop the inductive argument. Now, with that inductive argument, that means myself and everybody in the audience has good reason to believe that no minds can exist without a brain. So I'm asking you to show us that a mind can exist without a brain.
Why can't I show that this is the case by logical necessity?
Because you can't define something into existence, and you
How am I
stated that
defining something into
conceivability is not
existence?
equal to possibility.
How am I defining something into existence?
Because you're not providing an example of a mind without a brain.
When you say defining into existence, what does that mean?
Using definitions of words to try to reason to different position.
So, like, what's an example of
that? Saying that a disembodied mind exists and is the necessary being.
All right, guys, that's time. Get your last thoughts out.
That's all I got.
That's all we got.
All right. I got 2 super chats. One from Nobody on Fire for $5 says, bugs. Yes, because you stated conceivability is not equal to possibility, your conception is now dead in the water, hence the example demand. And then one more onomatopoeia phobic, $2 is saying bug is being obtuse because he knows where this goes.
All right, and I'll put up a poll real fast. So that'll be up in just a second. Who is tonight's master? Who is tonight? Bugs, you're over 18, right?
Yes.
Okay. Who is tonight's master debater? Taco Bugs. All right. Polls up.
So yeah, you guys did too. You did good. Sorry, my dogs are barking. We're gonna go into the closing statements, starting with Bugs. Just want to say thank you to everybody who's giving support to the channel. You guys rocked it today. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you
Bugs.
so much, people. I greatly appreciate it. I'm very appreciative.
I appreciate it, everyone. I don't have any closing statements outside of that.
No closing statements?
Yeah, I don't think
All
either
right.
of us do.
Tacos, you got to close?
Yeah, so my opponent couldn't get through the reverse modal ontological argument without claiming that conceivability does not equal logical possibility, which locked him into some type of nomological modality for the type of claim that he's making about a disembodied mind. And I ended up presenting a strong inductive argument based off the nomological, because that's where he got stuck. All observed minds occur in virtue of brains, therefore all minds occur in virtue of brains, and we couldn't get past that. And so we basically ended up the discussion getting stuck there. I don't feel like anybody here has good reason to accept that, at least from Bug's position, that a mind can occur without a brain, or ergo a disembodied mind almost certainly cannot exist. And there's no reason for any of us to believe in it, especially after the argumentation that's been provided. I do appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate the super chats. Bug, I appreciate you being here and debating me as well. I think that's pretty much the summary. Let me look through my notes here. I have some time here. On his argument, we got stuck on if something is in motion, then it must be put in motion by another since it can't move itself. So I think that the fact that we got stuck there and then he jumped all the way through the rest of his premises. I'll read up to where that goes. So if the things in the universe are in motion, if something is in motion, then it must be put in motion by another since it can't move itself. Things in the universe must have been put in motion by another. If there is a per se causal chain of movers and it cannot regress infinitely, then there must be a first mover that isn't moved by anything. Therefore, there must be a first mover that isn't moved by anything else. Whatever is not moved by another must have no potentiality. Therefore, the first mover is pure act. Humans are conscious beings possessing intellect and will, according to the principle of, this is where we ended up getting to. This is where he ended up jumping to after he rejected conceivability as possibility, and he got stuck on premise 2. So he skipped all that, and then there's still a lot more premises, and there's still 2 or 3 conclusions and like 4 more premises after that. But according to the principle of proportionate causality, the effect must pre-exist its cause, formally, virtually, or imminently. And so he ended up jumping ahead in his argument after being stuck on premise 2 and claiming that conceivability is a logical possibility, destroying his own position. That's all I got. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. You're all awesome.
Thank you, guys. See you guys later.
Oh, wait. We usually do an open panel after. You want to stick around for the open panel and chat with the audience?
Sure. I'll sit on here for a little bit.
Cool.
Nice.
Are you comfortable with me declaring the winner?
Yeah.
Or do you want it to wait a few more minutes?
No, you're chilling, dude.
All right. You want to read that? I just ended the poll BS.
Yep. It looks like tonight's master debater is Tacos with 81% of the vote to Bugs 19% of the vote. But everybody was giving you guys both a lot of love in the chat, saying this was a great debate. It really showed a lot of endurance, how it kept going on and on. You guys were just going back and forth like gladiators. A lot of blood to go around in this debate. So good job, guys.